Hockenheim Ring. Once the location of legendary speed, its iconic forest loop now being reclaimed by nature. Fans mourn Hockenheim not because the modern circuit is specifically bad, but because the old circuit was the stuff of legends. From 1965 until 2001, Hockenheim had a signature layout which saw cars blast through the dense German forests at speeds well over 200 miles per hour. The Ostkurve at the northeast end of the circuit originally tested drivers daring and cornering on the limit. In later years, the famous flat-out loop in the forest was punctuated by 3 devilish chicanes designed to keep the speeds in check. But despite the efforts, racing at the Hockenheim Ring was serious motorsport. The danger highlighted most by the unfathomable death of Jim Clark in a 1968 F2 race, and later by the testing accident of Patrick Depailler in 1980. What made Hockenheim special was not just the high speeds, but the juxtaposition of mechanical engineering needed for the high speeds favoring an aero-light automobile and a tighter stadium section beckoning for more downforce. This mechanical challenge saw special cars and aero configurations developed specifically to maximize a car's effectiveness around the circuit. So this is how fans remember Hockenheim: fast, special, and dangerous. The modern circuit certainly is far from the bottom of the worst circuits in Formula One, but nothing compares to the original. But many may be interested to know the fast forest loop that you love so much is not the true original Hockenheim circuit. Before the Hockenheim Ring, there was the Dreieckskurs. This is the Dreieckskurs, the layout of the original Hockenheim Ring. Built in 1932 and nearly double the length of the more familiar classic, the triangle course was a 7.5-mile narrow, flat-out test of nerve. The triangle layout connected the town of Hockenheim with 3 straight runs through the forest, utilizing existing roads augmented for racing. The start-finish was right at the edge of the town of Hockenheim, allowing everybody to witness the racing action. The circuit was the idea of a young man named Ernst Christ who wished to see a motor racing circuit in his town. He pitched the idea to the town's mayor Philipp Klein and was met with enthusiasm. Plans were quickly formed, and by 1932 the circuit was opened, but only half finished, with much of the surface still unpaved. The circuit bears little resemblance to the Hockenheim Ring we know today. For starters, it was run in a counterclockwise direction. The start-finish led riders away from town and into the dark forest past what would many years later become the stadium section. After working through the first official corner called the Radsbuckelkurve, the course met the Reichsstrasse and the first significant left-hander. Through this corner, the circuit led down the next straight road towards the town of Oftersheim, but veered to a very sharp left just before the town. The Spitzkurve was the most northern corner, seemingly the tightest corner on the circuit. Its exit opened up for the next straight. And from there, the circuit plunged back towards the town of Hockenheim, meeting up once again with the straight past where turn 2 veers away from the classic circuit today. Finally, the circuit arrived back at the town of Hockenheim, and the riders made their way through the final corner, the Stadtkurve, before aligning back to the start and finish and beginning a lap once again. The circuit itself is quite frightening, trees lining the edges. It's easy to get lost in the first few laps of the course, as many corners look the same. Drivers no doubt had plenty of time to contemplate braking for the next corner down the long straights, and passing on a tree-lined, narrow, bumpy surface would have been a daring test for any racing driver, to say the least. The full triangle course held racing, mostly motorcycles, from 1932 through 1938. It's also said that Mercedes and Auto Union Grand Prix teams held testing on the course, but during this time period, Hockenheim remained a minor circuit in Germany, much overshadowed by Avis and Nürburgring as premier venues for auto racing. In 1938, the course's northern section was removed and replaced with the signature Ostkurve. This shortened circuit still ran counterclockwise against the direction of following years. Pre-war racing unfortunately came to an end, and the circuit was badly damaged by the Allies advancing tanks and infantry during the Second World War. Despite this, after the war, the circuit was revived, repaired, and resumed motorcycle racing events, finally holding the German Motorcycle Grand Prix in 1957 and alternating with other German tracks in the following years. In 1965, the A6 Autobahn was built and intersected the southern portion of the circuit before the Stadtkurve. This prompted the building of the familiar stadium section and the reversal of the running direction to improve starts. And that's how the layout remained for the next 35 years, beyond the addition of a couple chicanes. Hockenheim's critics of the 80s and 90s cited that it was a simple circuit and led to boring racing due to the lack of corners, but looking back on its history, the entire racing community lets out a lustful sigh when thinking of the flat-out Formula One car, buzzing the trees and rocketing out of sight.